Hey, what's up guys? Today we're talking about the Calibri 3D scanner from Thor 3D. This is a very professional scanner. It's really nice as far as the build quality. You can see there's the cameras and the projector there. And it actually has a 4-inch touchscreen, which is really handy to have. Because if you're scanning something over here, you don't want to be looking at your computer monitor over here while you're moving it. So that is really useful. You can watch the screen as you're working. And also it's a touch screen, so you can control some of the things, some of the brightness levels and detail and such like that. So, they sent this to me to review, and I will have to send it back actually very soon. So let's set that down. And they asked me not to do an unboxing because this unit was used, so it's not really a fresh unboxing, but I can show you some of the things that came with it. So we have the power brick and its cord. We have another shorter black cord, and we have the long USB cable that goes from your computer to the device itself. And I'm glad this is a very long cord, because it really lets you have a lot more freedom to move around. So also in the box we have some registration stickers. These are just dots that you can put on whatever you're scanning if you need a little extra help picking up the details. They also include a box of, these are the same things, I can hold one up, these are the same things except they are magnets. So I don't really have anything metal here, I don't think. No, but yeah, so if you're scanning something metal like a car, you can stick these all over and then remove them, put them back in the box when you're done. That's very handy to have. See if we can get that box closed. And what else? We've got a few pamphlets, and that's pretty much all that's left in that box. The other thing that they sent me is big. It is the calibration board. Let's see if I can get this out here. Okay, this is the calibration board. And this is only half of it because it folds open. It is really big and cumbersome. And the scanner asks you to use it frequently. It seems every couple of times I turn it on, it says, please calibrate scanner. So there's that, and there are a bunch of these acrylic pieces that you have to assemble together to hold that up, and also one to kind of acts as a tripod underneath of the scanner itself. Yeah, so the calibration is annoying. So for comparison's sake, the only other hardware 3D scanner that I have is the Einscan Pro from Shining 3D. This one, of course, does not have the touch screen. It does have a color pack, but I find this one's color pack is not as good as the color on here. The color on this one is not amazing, but it's better than this one. However, as far as calibration, this is the calibration board for the Einscan. That and this one little piece of plastic. And we have the white side for the white balance. But this compared to this monstrosity, it's a big difference. So let's talk about some of the details of this scanner. As I mentioned, it has a 4-inch touchscreen. The weight is 1.5 pounds. It's quite light, very easy to move around. I do find it's a little bit front heavy, so if you don't have a good grip, it tends to dip forward. But it's not heavy, so it's not hard to get a good grip on it. We have a couple of buttons back here as well as the touch screen for power and basically start and stop scanning. Let's see. As I mentioned, it does full color scanning. You'll see later in the video how that looks. It scans at 30 frames per second, 3 million points per second, which is quite a lot. Then it has 3 scanning modes, which you will see later. It does. It'll scan based on geometry, based on texture, and based on those markers that I showed. One feature that this has that the Einscan has trouble with, and a lot of other scanners have trouble with, is that it will scan things that are black and things that are shiny and things that have sharp edges, much like this corner up here, for example. Of course, it couldn't scan itself, but a similar corner. So, finally, the price. That's the hard part. The price is 4,990 euros, which comes to about $6,052 US as of right now. So, it's pricey, but it is a professional piece of equipment. And you can see later in the video how the scans look and decide for yourself. So let's get on with scanning some stuff. Here I'm doing a scan of a ukulele I have. You may have actually seen it in one of my previous videos. One cool feature of the software is that you can show whatever the scanner's screen shows on your computer, which means that I can record it for you. It's also handy if you're scanning something above your head and you can't see the scanner, so you can choose to look at your computer screen instead. Anyway, back to the ukulele. One of the biggest problems I have with this scanner isn't really the scanner's fault. It's designed for scanning larger objects. I was afraid the ukulele wouldn't be large enough, so I included the carrying bag for the uke and this large container that it's sitting on. I actually chose the ukulele because of its sharp edges and the black section, since it said they can scan both of those. Another thing to note about this scanner is that it says it does not require an NVIDIA graphics card, like the Einscan. So I thought, great, I'll be able to carry it around with my laptop and to take it all over scanning all kinds of things. But no, while it does not require NVIDIA, it does require a large amount of video RAM, which my laptop doesn't have. So anything that I'm going to scan has to fit inside my living room where my computer is. This really limited the selection of things I had to choose from. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the software. This is Calibri Nest, it's called. And we can see, first of all, down at the bottom, we can see where it says whether or not the scanner is connected, and it is not right now. So up here we have some basic controls for the scanner, start and stop, power on, power off, scan, preview, etc. Down here we can choose the type of tracking, geometry, markers, or texture based. Down here we have the list of all your previous scans. And that's about all we need to look at right now. So let's open one of my previous scans. Let's look at this one. This is a water gun that I had scanned. Let's open that up. Okay, and so here we get the water gun up on a little turntable on a table. Okay, so let's get rid of, let me zoom out. Let's get rid of the table. We don't need that right now. Let me rotate this around a little bit. There we go. Like that. I'm not a fan of this type of rotating that a lot of 3D packages use, like Blender, for example, by default. Because now you've got your
model upside down, and it's a pain in the butt to get it straight again. You have to do this weird twisting. But anyway, so there we go. And so we'll click frames down here, and if you open that, you can see these are all the frames that were individually scanned by the scanner. But let's click the main thing there, and we can pick this lasso type marquee. And here's one of the problems that I have with the software. Let's rotate this around, and suppose I want to go around the gun. So I'll zoom in a little bit, pick that lasso, and I'll start out here and get in real close, and let's go around. But now the gun is getting selected, and as I click around it, it's still getting selected. So now I've got my table and the gun. So I can right click, but the gun is selected. So if I want to not select the gun, I have to come back up here to the lasso and hold control, and now repeat basically that whole thing, selecting around the gun to deselect it. That's one thing that I think it would be really not too difficult for them to fix. But anyway, so I can now come up here and click this icon with the scissors, and it will cut that away. But an easier way would be to just look at it from the side and just draw a straight line across. Okay, and now scissors, and let's pan up a little bit so I can get the bottom of the table. Okay, scissors, and then I have a little box in here. I want to get rid of that too. Okay, there we go, and scissors. Okay, so now we have just the gun as well as a little bit of this extra debris in there, but that'll get taken care of. So this is just a point cloud, of course. So we can create, let's minimize this. We can create the mesh by clicking this play button up here. And that'll take a few moments. Okay, and so there's the mesh. And it looks pretty good. We can see a lot of the good details in there. The water gun text on there in case you didn't know it's a water gun. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Of course, this is only half of the gun. I did the other half in a separate scan, which we could merge together. But that looks pretty good. And so we can click here and see the wireframe and see how much detail that is in that mesh. Zoom in on some of that text. Okay, so now let's see how we can texture it with this icon that looks like a beach ball to me. And that'll take another few moments. And there we go, that's textured. And I think that looks pretty good. I mean, considering it was scanned in a dimly lit room, I think we got some decent texture in there. The colors all seem pretty accurate. It is a lot better than the Einscan. And here's one funny thing the software does is every time you generate a mesh, it creates a random name for it. So the first one is called Big Mac Thunder. The second one is called Danny Meatball. It always makes me laugh every time. But yeah, that's the mesh. Fully textured scan. And then if we want to save it, you can just right click on this up here. This list is all of the scans that are currently open. So we can just right click on that and save as. and export the mesh to do whatever you want to do with it. So that's a really quick look at the software. There's a ton of other tools in here. If you see all of these, half of these I've never even touched. I don't know what half of them do, but that was all you really needed to do basic scans. Alright, let's take a quick look at some of the finished scans. This is a vase that I used with the texture mode. And you can see I did not scan all the way around. I got most of it. And I know these textures look a little smeary, but I've compared, and yes, this is actually what the vase looks like. So it's not everybody's taste, but I think I like it. But anyway, yep. Yep, so that's how that looks. And I'll switch over to the wireframe. You can see how much detail is in there. Yeah, so that scanned pretty well, which is good because a lot of scanners have problems with vases and like smooth surfaces and symmetrical objects, but this came out very well. And here's the fairy statue. I think the textures came out very nicely. Of course, we can see I did not get the inside of the shell. It's my mistake. But otherwise, it looks very good. Let's zoom in a little bit. So it looks pretty good. Let's take a look with no textures. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good scan. Now look at the wireframe. So it's pretty detailed, but not super detailed. It's kind of just enough to get what we need. Look at the other side, you can see that broken arm. Right, and here's that water gun we were looking at earlier. I think it looks pretty good. It's a little slightly rough texture where it should be smooth, but otherwise it did get it scanned pretty well, and most of this could be smoothed out easily in a sculpting program like 3D Coat. I had a little bit of trouble along the seam between the two halves of the model when I scanned it in two parts and merged them together. But otherwise, yeah, here's some more of that trouble. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. Again, let's look at the wireframe. See all the detail there. It's quite dense. And look at it with no texture. So yeah, we can see all that detail is actually there. It's not being faked by the texture. Yeah, here let's it's a little too white. We can't really see it too well. Let's lower that. Yeah, it's a lot easier to see. Oh, there it is. Okay, here's that ukulele. It's looking really good. It did a very good job with the black and even the brown of the bag here and the cords, kind of the shoulder strap, I guess it is. So yeah, any gaps that you see like this are basically places where I didn't scan or I didn't have the scanner pointed directly at it. But otherwise, everything looks really good. Let's take a look at it with no texture. There we go. That's really nice. And it's funny, you can kind of, if I zoom in a bit maybe, you can see kind of a line for where the black starts, but otherwise it's got a slightly rough texture. It could be easily smoothed out, and it got the edges, those sharp creases there are really clean. The other side, it looks really good. Take a look at the wireframe. And you can see that it is quite dense, though yeah, these edges are going to be a little bit denser. And it looks really good. I mean, yeah, these flat areas, I'm sure you could decimate those even more. The one thing, the texture is nice, but not perfect. As we can see here, it's supposed to show the name of the ukulele as a populele, and you can see there's like a little bit of ghosting on that texture, but otherwise it looks pretty good. It's not amazing, but pretty good. So here I've jumped over to 3D Coat, and here's the cat water fountain that I scanned with markers, and I was very easily able to paint out those markers just using like a rubber stamp tool similar to Photoshop, but yeah, they're basically invisible. So that came out pretty nicely. Obviously there's some spots where I could have scanned more, but otherwise it looks pretty good. Even the text logo here is at least readable. But it came out very nicely. To take a look at it with no textures. There we go. And you can see a little bit of that logo, but otherwise it came out quite well.
So that is the Calibri 3D scanner from Thor 3D. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below if you have any thoughts on this or 3D scanners in general. Please subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, please visit Patreon at the link below, down there. And we'll see you next time.